Hey there, this is Mrs. Scholl.
And I'm still Miss Hofer.
And we're talking to you today about our October newsletter, the first half of October.
So we want to just share with you a few things that are going on in classes. In math classes, Mr. Hunter's class is working on some geometry, dealing with some triangles and angles. They do have a quiz coming up next week, and then check in with your student about Buzz Math or Khan Academy, and that's true for all math classes. Those are at-home practice that they have that they need to keep up on. Miss Martinson's class is working with scale drawings, and they have a unit assessment coming next week as well. And there's some optional bonus that could come home over this coming weekend. And then they're going to move on to Unit 2, which begins with proportions and tables and equations. So encourage your student to get their work done. In Miss Scott's Math 7, students are starting a new unit that deals with proportions. And just want to remind you that you do have a test on Wednesday. So it sounds like a couple math tests next week. And then in geography, students are working on solving and graphing inequalities.
In algebra.
That's what I meant.
No.
What did I say?
Geometry or something.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, sorry.
In science, students are working on explaining why matter changes state on the molecular level. They're focusing on heat transfer and rates of change with evaporation. They also look at condensation, melting, and freezing. Eventually, these ideas will be tied to patterns we observe in weather and climate. In my Language Arts and Social Studies class, we are working on our dystopian novel unit. Students created a reading schedule to try to meet reading goals per day over the course of 3 weeks. And we're focusing kind of on marking conflicts, then examples of rebellion, and then later on, which will be next week, the final week of the novel, the resolution and how that protagonist figures out all the problems. We're mimicking that in our reading of The Giver. And we're also doing a government study using close reading strategies. Ask your student about monarchies, oligarchies, aristocracies, and authoritarianism. They should be able to tell you something about it. And finally, we're still working on narrative writing. Next week and the following week, we'll be working on similes and metaphors using some of Langston Hughes' poetry. So you can definitely talk to your kiddos about those types of writing. And yeah.
That's good. So in my language arts class, we're continuing our exploration of geography, not geometry or algebra. And then we're also continuing our shared reading of literature, and students have their own paired novel that they're reading with. We're really trying to practice making a claim about a piece of literature and then finding some text evidence to support their claim and explain their thinking. And that's a pattern that goes across all disciplines. So next week, we're going to be setting some goals for reading and writing that we hope to improve, kind of looking at some strengths and areas of growth. In Miss Thompson's class, they're continuing their work with narrative writing and focusing on sensory details. And they're applying that to their writing of strong personal narratives. They'll begin to use some writing workshop protocols this month to guide their revisions. And in social studies, they've been building a framework for understanding history using the lenses of social scientists. And students will finish up their final projects and move on to government structures. Ms. Thompson also wants to remind students that they're going to the campus library on Tuesday, October 30th, and students will need a sack lunch.
We have a couple highlights from our Star Fit teachers that they want us to let us know about. In art class, in Art 7, they're learning about Keith Haring, and students are exploring the artwork of Mr. Haring through watercolor projects. They're also learning about Zentangles. Students will show their knowledge of watercolor techniques and Zentangles through an art piece inspired by Keith Haring. I hope I'm saying that right. And in leadership with Miss Marcel, they're learning on the differences in personality versus character. Students are working in personality groups to create videos about behavior in the hallways.
Oh, that sounds like a good one. In drums, Mr. Henyon says that they're learning to play some Latin percussion instruments like, wow, gyros and claves. I know I just butchered that. Sorry. Time for vocabulary lessons. They're also learning new rhythm patterns to play on the conga and studying Carlos Santana and Tito Puente. I really needed Senora Jackson for this one, apparently. In band, students are gearing up for their first concert, which is next week on October 25th, and they're using Screencastify to play assessment videos and submit them through Google Classroom.
And finally, in Mrs. Cotton's health class, they're learning about nutrition and how our bodies break down food we eat into nutrients to help the body function. This week, they're going to be learning how to read food labels in order to make informed food choices, and their nutrition unit assessment is on Friday, October 26th. For more specific information about assignments and due dates, check her website or their Google Classroom for more information.
And now we get to talk about some Pride students. These are students that we have noticed doing a great job.
All right, so one of the students we'd like to recognize is Will Nevin, also known as Wilson Nevin. He's being recognized for staying focused and on task while a guest teacher was at school. Will was working on his assignments, needed little to no redirection, and accomplished his reading and writing work. Thank you for being responsible and focused while your teachers were out for the day. Keep up the good work, Will. Another student that's being recognized is Elise Parkinson. Elise is being recognized as a quiet leader. You can always count on Elise for being ready for class, offering ideas when she deems it important, and to be courteous to all. Thank you for always doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. We appreciate you and your work ethic, Elise.
We also want to recognize Annabelle Sefurley. Annabelle can be counted on to come into class, help out teachers and her peers, and work hard towards completing thoughtful responses. We appreciate her being a model student, being kind and considerate to others, and Mr. Hennigan says she is also working very hard as a beginning flute player in 7th grade band and making great progress.
Nice job, Annabelle.
Yeah.
Nolan Crow.
Yep.
We're also going to recognize Mr. Crow. We really appreciate Nolan's great work ethic and his ability to support other students in our class. We can count on him to provide quality contributions to our class discussions and to think about what others say and use that, as well as new information in class to help develop his own thinking. He does that a lot. He's super awesome.
Cool. Do you know Stella?
I don't
know Stella either, but I'm going to talk about her. Stella Myers. Stella comes to class with a smile on her face. She works hard, not just to get the work done, but to really learn it and understand it. And we can count on her to participate in class discussions and be a kind friend to her classmates. I clearly need to meet Stella. Also, Victoria McPherson. Victoria is just one of the most positive, hardworking students at Liberty. She is kind to everyone, and she gives her very best each and every day. So thank you, Victoria. And finally, Patrick Helt. Patrick is a great contributor in class. He maintains a growth mindset and can be counted on to find the positive in everything. He has a great sense of humor and is really good about using it in a positive way. So thanks, Patrick. We appreciate it.
And the final part here.
Be able to put some names to some faces, although we're doing that for you now, and then also for your student, just to walk you through what their day looks like. Because contrary to what they tell you, they did not actually do nothing at school. So,
all right.
Yeah. So that's what we've got for this round of news, I think.
Yep.
Did we get it all? Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.